Good morning everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is my weekly chat garden update kind of a video. I am a couple of days behind, but it's shopping week this week, so there's just a lot to get done before I head off for the groceries. So I came out to do this yesterday afternoon. I mentioned it on the video that I put out this morning, but it was late afternoon and it had been 38 degrees and the garden looked horrible with a real droop. Now, it needs a water this morning, so I'm going to, once I've finished here, I'm going to water everything. And then I am going to, my tomatoes need some pruning and there's some that are falling down, so I'll show that as I go, but I'm going to grab some ties and sort that out as well, do a quick prune of all the tomatoes, tie them all up because I'm going to be gone for the groceries. So I leave tomorrow, it's Tuesday today, so I leave tomorrow and I get back on Friday. So there's a few days there where Darryl and the kids water things for me, but they don't do much in the way of any extra sort of a maintenance, so they will come out and water, but that's it. So we are, I think this is week 6 of the growing season for 2023. So 23-24 in Australia. We live in an arid zone, and this year we redid all the gardens here. So we've moved from in-ground market style beds to raised beds and IBC wicking beds and barrel wicking beds and things like that, because we had a really unsuccessful garden year last year and we're trying to fix things that seem to occur, and doing this is going to do it. So there's been some big investments in the garden this year, but so far it is looking like it is paying off. So for anyone who's been around, you know that I get a little excited about how well things are doing, because last year was so horrible, that this year has been great. We've made some progress, there's still more to go. The irrigation system. So what we're planning to do with the raised beds irrigation system is a gravity fed barrel. So let me turn you around and show you where we're at. And yes, I still haven't bribed a child to pick up bags and stuff, but as someone said in the comment, and it's true, once everything's planted out and the gardens are doing well, I'll have plenty of time to clean up. So what we're doing with the irrigation is we have these 220 litre barrels. Now, 3 Besser bricks was too much, so we're going to see if a half Besser brick on top of that one will be enough to give it support in the middle between each bed. So each bed's going to have, each set of 2 beds is going to have one of these 220 litre barrels in it. And then from there we have these, I'm standing in my own sunlight, these irrigation grids is the plan. So I have this maize non-pressure compensating drip line, which means that it works with gravity fed and no pressure required. Look at my sad little nasturtium there that needs water. And then I've got an inlet here that is going to come off the tank. Now the reason we haven't hooked it up to the tank yet is because I need a 13mm drill bit for the tank and we didn't have one. So Darryl's going into town today and he'll grab one. So we've got manifold there with 4 coming all the way through, all the way to the end of the bed, and then I decided to cap it off with an end as well, rather than just having it open or sealed off, because then it's going to be a closed circuit of water to drip through. So we're going to have them in every bed with 1 tank between the 2. So you can see here, and this gives me a grid to plant by as well. But part of the reason that the beds still are quite empty is because I don't want to direct sow any seeds into these beds until the irrigation is in, because I just cannot guarantee that I can keep the soil wet enough for things to germinate. So there's still a lot of empty spots in a lot of these beds because I don't want to direct sow anything until that point. So that's sort of why. So at the moment we've only got this, I've made a whole heap of extra manifolds and we've got the extra pipe there to go, but we just put these 2 together because we just wanted to set one up and make sure it worked, but then we didn't have the right drill bit for the tank. So Darryl's going to get the drill bit for the tank today, and then we're going to hook it up and see how it goes. And then that way I can get 1,000 litre IBC from the bore, and I can use the jet pump and I can just fill all of these barrels up. Each barrel will have each outlet that goes out will have a top hat, grommet and a tap. So I'll show that to you next week once we've got them done. So the tap can be turned on and off, because they're not going to need a whole 220 litre barrel per 2 beds at a time. So the theory is that a third to a half of it watered every 2 or 3 days, depending on the weather, is what I'm looking at. So we'll see how we go with that. But I did get some extra stuff planted out. I put some extra jalapenos in this bed because we have all those ones that are curling in that other bed. So I thought if I had extra couple here that I just put in to see how they go. There is a silver beet here just because I had surplus silver beet, and the tomatoes, as I said, need a prune and a water. These were the ones that were a little bit stressed from having sat in pots for too long, those ones at the end. And these are the Kellogg's that were really tiny. When I put them in, they're doing quite well considering the limited water at the moment. And I planted all the basil out, and again, it sat in pots for a little bit longer than it should have because it was so small that if I planted it out and there wasn't enough water, it was dying off. So anyway, these are some extra of the guajillo peppers, which I have a bed full of. But again, they're curling up really badly in those beds with the tomatoes, and I'm not sure whether it's the beds that's the issue, like whether there's something wrong with those particular beds. So I thought I'd plant them out here so that in case those ones give me nothing, that we have a second set sort of here. And then I've just filled a couple of spots. Again, there's a small silver beet there because so I've been having a lot of problems with rodents in the hothouse again. An entire tray of lettuce seedlings has been consumed, and then they were also eating, there was at least half a dozen silver beet plants that they ate the whole tops off. So yesterday I spent some time and got pretty much everything out of there. There is still a whole couple of trays of tomatoes which I don't really have any room to put, so I'm gonna have to find someone who wants them. And there is a couple of other bits and pieces that need, I have some a couple of ground cherries that Robin sent me some dried up fruit for that I tried planting the seeds out for, and I've had a few of them shoot up, so I need to pot them up and then get them going. I've got some echinacea that I started from seed that is still just not quite big enough for me to put in the beds yet with inconsistent watering, and a couple of other bits and pieces. But I tried to get just about everything I could out of the hothouse because I'm having these problems with the rodents. So I need to figure it out. I'm thinking maybe if I created some sort of like cages on the shelves made out of avery mesh, because mice can't get through avery mesh, that maybe that would work to keep the trays safe. But the whole point was that it was a closed space and I wasn't going to have to do that. And I don't know, I put a rat trap in there because we have bush rats. So I put a rat trap in there and caught a bush rat a couple of days ago. I put snap traps in for the field mice and I've caught a couple of them. But I don't know, unless I go around and cover the whole thing with avery mesh, which is an awful lot of work and cost. But maybe in the end I don't have a choice, because if I want to be able to use it, because I'm going to need to start planning, like after Christmas I need to recrop things. Well, I already need to recrop a few things to start for a second flush of things. So it's I don't know. I do have the seed starting trays shelves in the house. I do have incubators sitting on them at the moment, but I can use a couple of the trays for starting the seeds. But once they get to a certain height, the lights that I've got in there are purely for germination. They're not for growth. So once they get to a certain size, they need to come out to the sunlight, and I don't want to have to move things in and out every day either. So I don't know. I'm still debating what I do there. But anyway, so I planted those extra peppers out. I planted some extra basil out all over the place, but mostly the beds are the same. We'll do a quick run through them just so that you can see them. The buckets are doing really well. I'm really happy with how these are progressing. They didn't take off as well as I would have liked. And again, I think that's because of the whole wicking thing. So if you're going to start wicking beds, you definitely need to top water them quite considerably for quite a while. When the plants are small that are going in, they just cannot pull the water from the bottom. Now I've only got 250 to 300 mil soil height because that's what was suggested. So it's not a huge amount of distance for it to wick, but it's just, our heat, I suppose, the high heat hitting the top, it's drying out the very top, and the roots have not developed enough to go down. But now that they have, we've got some full buckets. I'll turn you around and show you. It looks quite nice now. We're definitely getting there anyway. So again, rubbish that we haven't cleaned up, but anyway. Like the watermelons are definitely starting to cascade out, and we've got a few melons on a few of them as well, and then this one again, the cascading all the way out the bed. So I really do need to get this cleaned up, because the whole point is that this is going to be the space for all of these to cascade out onto the ground. And so we've already got, look, this native bee there pollinating that flower. Let me get that in focus. I don't know if you saw it, but I don't know if I could get it on my phone like that, but it's a, yeah, there's a native bee pollinating these watermelon flowers, so that's really nice to see. So that one's starting to cascade everywhere. This one is as well, all going over the sides, and we've got plenty of flowers and stuff coming up. So another watermelon hanging there. So, and then the pumpkin plants are starting to flush out as well. So again, we got soil bags. So they're really starting to get flush, and we have some pumpkins. I don't know how many are being pollinated, but I'm not overly concerned just yet while the plants are still fairly small. But lots of foliage coming up, and we've got, that's a male flower there, but I don't have any female flowers open that need pollinating at the moment. But this, like that one definitely looks like it's been pollinated. It's a good size. So this one too. So we will see how we go anyway, and hopefully we get, so these are honey nut pumpkins, and this is the first time I've grown these, so these are a new one for me. These two beds that I planted out, the zinnias were in pots for far too long, and again, I'd like to direct sow them, but I need some water supply first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct sow a bunch more, but they were in pots for so long, and they have not tolerated being planted out, most of them. So what we get. I had one chamomile die off too, I don't know why, but anyway. But the cornflowers, and we've got bergamot and echinacea and the chamomile there seem to be going fine, and then this bed's doing fine too. I still haven't put anything in that back row yet, but this bed seems to be doing fine as well. The silver beet, some lettuce and some spinach and stuff. Strawberry beds still haven't taken off. I don't know. I water it very regularly, and the crowns looked good when they went in, but most of them are not doing much of anything. And I don't want to disturb them too much to check roots and stuff, but yeah, they're just not doing much of anything. So hopefully we get something out of that. But there are 2 beds of strawberries. The zucchinis are super lush. It's so nice to see. And oh look, there's a cocozelle. So these are the stripy zucchinis. I haven't picked one of them yet, but they're one of my favorite zucchinis. I find the flesh on them really, really nice, and it's pretty because they got the stripes. There's another one there. So, and another one there. So plenty of those. So the zucchinis are looking awfully nice. I need to tie them up to the stakes and stuff and prune some of the lower leaves off, but I need to wear long sleeves when I do that because my skin does not tolerate the spiky leaves very well, so I need to do that. And we've still got more of the Lebanese coming in, and these ones need to be tied up as well, but everything's looking really good. This one's got a little bit of a curl going to it, but and there's a couple that I have found that haven't been pollinated. Like that one there hasn't been pollinated, obviously, but we'll figure it out as we go along. And everything needs a bit of a water today, so everything, it looks a lot better than it did last night, but it's still not great. I got these beds out, the herb beds planted out. Someone suggested putting my rhubarb out here, which was a great idea because this whole point of these beds here is a bit of a perennial sort of section. Some of them will be annual herbs, but at the same time, some should come back. So we put the rhubarb in here. There's some chamomile in there. There's a bit of parsley and things like that. And then that's my rosemary that always seems to do well. We got Christmas spiders. I don't know if I can, and more, thingy bags, of course. I don't think I can get we get these Christmas spiders, and it doesn't want to focus. I'll try and get a photo of it. We get Christmas spiders all around Christmas time, and they're little jeweled spiders everywhere, and they have really sticky webs. I planted the peppermint out in this bed here because I'm hoping that it'll just fill in what's empty in here. Now this, I believe this was my sage last year, and I don't think it's going to come back, but I'm just going to let it decay in there. And I did have one sage that I managed to germinate. So I put a fresh sage there, but I'm pretty sure that was sage because we have a lavender here and a lavender there, and then the rosemary, and I'm pretty sure that was sage, but it obviously doesn't want to come back this year. These all need mulching, so I'm going to mulch them and water them as well. But I'm hoping this peppermint will really take off, and then I can make some of my own peppermint essence and stuff. Sonnet has been requesting chocolate ice cream, so that would be nice to infuse the coconut cream with the peppermint leaves. That would work really well. And then the other two beds similar. Topped them up. There's some arnica, some nasturtiums, some echinacea, some parsley, some bergamot. I think there's a little cornflower in there. And this was, I got this cutting of warrigal greens off Robin, and I was really excited because I managed to root it. It had fresh green leaves, and then a rat or a mouse has chewed a whole lot of it off. But there is still a growth point just there. So I decided I would put it in, keep it watered and mulched, and maybe it will take off. So we will see. But yeah, so I just filled these beds in with those, and we're going to have to set up one of those, grab these bags, one of those points with the barrel in the middle here to water these beds as well, because the hose doesn't reach very well out here either, but they don't need anywhere near as much water as the veggie beds, because that's the point of what I planted out here, is it's a lot sturdier with less water. The cabbages are still chugging even with the damage. I do come and check them, I do come and sprinkle them with diatomaceous earth, but as you can tell I still haven't put a cover on them, so anything that gets eaten out of here is purely my own fault. But we are getting some that are heading up nicely, and there's not as much damage in here anymore as they're heading up. Some lovely looking heads starting there, so we will see. The beetroot leaves, it's amazing. We've grown beetroot plenty of times, and rarely have we ever got the kind of extent of leaves. And I know that they're having to push high because the cabbages are overtaking the bed. But we've been using the leaves, so even if we don't get much in the way of bulbs, we've been using the leaves as greens anyway, so it's been nice to be able to come out and pick these. These are nice early greens, realistically, like a bit like the silver beet, except the silver beet hasn't taken off yet, so we get to use these instead. The beans still aren't happy, but I don't know, we'll just let them go. We are getting some flowers on them, but they're quite yellow and they're just not real happy. The cucumbers, however, are doing really well. We've got plenty of little cucumbers, some hanging, some in the middle of the plants. There's one there that could be picked, and there's one underneath there. And I think though we did make some quick pickles, you'll see that in What We Eat in a Week, we did some quick pickles, but I think if I ever wanted to pickle too much more from them, that I'd need a lot more than 8 plants. And a couple of these plants are actually silver slices, but I haven't seen any cucumbers from them at all, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we shall see. I don't know, I didn't label the plants either, and I can't really differentiate. They don't seem to have different growth habits or anything, so I'm not sure yet until we get fruit, but they're doing really well. And then the other tomatoes are also doing well, except that we've got all that curling issues still, like really severe curling issues. But they're still growing, they're still throwing plenty of flowers, and we have some nice looking fruit. So I don't know, but these ones badly need a prune. I've left some suckers grow that I really shouldn't have, and they need some tying up a bit higher, so we'll do that. And then this is the guajillo peppers. As I said, we've got some curling on these as well, but we've got plenty of flowers and stuff too, so I'm inclined that we're going to be okay, but I wanted to plant some extras in another bed just in case. And then we've still got the Thai basil. There's a couple of zinnias there, and the basil on here. So this bed's looking good. It's really curly, but I'm just ignoring it for the moment. Putting my head in the sand a little bit, because this is the same, really curly on the top, and yet a couple of them aren't, and we've got heaps of fruit on some of them, so I don't know. The basil's really taken off in this bed too, and these jalapenos, again, they look pretty good. They just have this curly issue, so I don't know, but we'll get the water to these beds too, and I think that will help. The consistent watering will help with them as well. We are having, so I planted radishes in the front of this bed, and I planted just some small, you know, little red easy pick radishes because the kids love to grab them, but I think the problem is that the mulch might have been too deep, and so they're not bulbing up at all. They're just creating these long roots. So I'm not sure what we're gonna get out of that, but again, that's another one that I really want to just direct seed over in some of the tomato beds, and I won't do it until we have water supply there. So hopefully Darryl can get that drill bit today, and maybe he'll get some done while I'm shopping. That would be kind of nice, and then we can have consistent watering for those. The IBC beds are finally sort of taking off a bit. They were, again, as I mentioned with the barrels, I don't think I was top watering them enough, and they just really were struggling without that top watering. But now they're more established and they're doing better. We had the same problem with the zinnias in the back because they were in pots for too long. They really were just in little tiny pots for too long. But the silver beet started to take off. This is some spinach here that we've been using. Some lettuce. It's the wrong time of year for lettuce, realistically. I did try growing some heat tolerant ones, but really it's, you know, it'll probably end up animal feed. Some cornflowers, some marigolds. It's all looking pretty good in there. And then this cabbage bed has taken off, considering how horrible it looked. It has now taken off. So the dill is going well. Got some sprouting broccoli in the back there, which is a long-term thing. So I thought the dill in there would be handy for that. But some of these cabbages are looking quite nice. There's some dirt in that one. I don't know whether it's just, I think it's just actual dirt, not insect dirt. But all of these are looking quite good. So I'm surprised that bed has taken off. And then the paste tomatoes are really looking good too. As I said, I need to come in here and tie stuff up. I noticed this one I must have missed a bottom tie on this one, and I've totally let too many suckers grow. So I need to come through and prune them. But there's a lot of fruit on these, which is really nice. I'm still not happy with these Gilberti paste variety. There's only 4 of those, and they're an odd tomato, but anyway, odd plant. But there's plenty of, look at all that fruit. So that's really nice. And the Kajari melons are really taking off. So I've been coming through and trying to train them up the, oh, caught on each other. Train them up the trellis. They've hung on a little bit here. Need to snip that and then train it up the trellis more, but they're taking off quite well as well. Some of my basil is bolting because it's hot, and I left it in the hothouse for too long. But I'm just coming through and pitching flowers off, and we'll see what we get with it. So yeah, we did manage to process all the rest of the roosters that were free ranging. I think I mentioned that, but we had 6 or 7 free range roosters, and they were causing problems when I was filming. That's why you haven't heard them for a while, and I'm nowhere near the chicken pens now where the rest of the roosters are. So we managed to process those, which means that I can actually do the potato bed as well. We're awfully late in the season to be doing potatoes, but we have a long enough season that's fine. But so the bed out there that's not enclosed is where we normally do potatoes. So I'm going to try next week, because I don't have time this week with the shopping, raking it up into a couple of rows and putting potatoes in there, and what we get, what we don't sort of thing. May as well use the soil that's there, and it's got plenty of worms and stuff in it when we go through that normally. So that particular bed's a nice in-ground bed that seems to have done well with the potatoes there previously. So we do get a little bit of potato scab because we keep on planting the potatoes in the same bed, but it doesn't really worry me. So I did have a bit of concerns with the fruit trees. Let me walk around there. I was a bit concerned about the fruit trees, that nothing seemed to be flowering, leafing up. But when I looked back on my records, I think I was expecting it too early. So, you know, September is spring, and so I was kind of expecting things to happen in spring. But when I look back on my records, it didn't happen that early. So they finally started leafing up. Now, I still would love far more development each year, but it is what it is with where we live and the weather and everything else. So it may take us many more years to get fruit from these trees, which is fine. It's all an investment in time and things like that. The other thing we had was the grey water wasn't working properly through part of the year. We've got it working again now, but we're still having some problems with it. So their watering is a little bit inconsistent, and then we don't get much rain at all. But we do have some nice growth. I've also found that the geese have been doing some damage to the lower parts of the trees because the geese walk through here all the time. We were going to fence it off, but we haven't done it. We might need to at some point, but they have been digging in the mulch at the bottom and breaking a few of the lower branches off and damaging some of the bark. So that can't be helping either, but we are getting some good growth. So it's always hard to get it to focus on leaves and stuff here when I have to turn the video different. Let's see if we can get this to work better. So there's lots of new growth in, oh, now I've got the cord in the way. I'm doing well, aren't I? Lots of new growth on different branches, and we have got, like, there's some lovely green branches as well, and some of the, let's get a focus for me or not, some lovely, I need like 3 hands to be able to tap the screen, and the, there we go, lovely new velvety growth on the tips and stuff like that. So, you know, we're getting there. There is some, no, it's not going to focus at all. So we are getting some good growth on the tops of them and things like that. But we did mulch, as I said, we mulched all the bottoms of them, but it's been really heavily dug up again by the geese and stuff. But all the trees seem to have some good growth on them. So I'm okay with it. This tree here is the one that I got a photo of Sonnet next to last year. But, you know, the tree's going to grow, but so is she. So, you know, but I might get a photo of her next to it as well, just to compare. But we have got some lovely green leaves coming in on most of these apple trees now. So I think I was just expecting a little bit too soon. We got some flowers, butterfly on there, and some flowers there, and the peach tree is doing well, though the other peach tree is not. So, don't know, but this peach tree is doing really well. So we will just keep on keeping on, and this is a citrus, but unfortunately it got a bit infested by monarch butterflies, and I didn't realize it early enough, and so I didn't pull enough of the caterpillars off, and so it got eaten quite badly. So it's still recovering from that. But in general, I'm pretty happy with how they're looking now that I rethought my timeline. I really thought we were well and truly behind, but then I realized that I think I was just expecting too much too soon, and now that we've hit these full heat days, they're really starting to take off. So that is everything in the garden for this week. So I'm going to come through and, as I said, I'm going to finish up this and then I'm going to bring some ties out, tie up those tomatoes and water everything. Give it a good go over. I need to mulch those herb beds and things like that, but hopefully by next week, especially when I'm away for a week, sometimes the next week feels like it's been a huge increase because I've been away for a few days. So we'll see how we go anyway. Other than that, what else is going on? Not a whole lot. Got the last food prep video out this morning, and then I've got the what we eat in a week I should get out tomorrow or the next day. I might put this one out tomorrow, and then the what we eat in a week the day after. And I'll be grocery shopping. Now, I did say I would do a FAQ Q&A or whatever. Again, if you'd like me to. We're coming up to 2 years on YouTube. 30th of November, I think, was when I joined 2 years ago. So it's probably about time to do an update sort of thing. And if I did it while I'm sitting at mum's, that would be beneficial. So if you want to leave any questions in the comments that you want answered, I can try and address them. Obviously, I do pick and choose to a degree. If I don't want to answer something, then I won't. But I do try and be as transparent as possible as well. And so if there's anything you want me to address in like a sit down video, then leave it in the comments or see how many comments there are, whether it's worth doing. But I will try and do a bit of a new intro / update video for the 2-year anniversary, I suppose. And then in December we'll do Vlogmas and all that sort of stuff. So there's plenty coming up anyway. And I'm rambling because that's what I do. So I think that's everything I needed to show you in the garden for this week. And I'm really, as I said, I'm really grateful to have these weekly videos, because when I look at them, snapshots of the week before, I realize how much progress we've made when when I'm right in here, it doesn't feel like much progress at all. So especially when you're not actually taking much food into the garden. Though we did take a bunch of zucchinis. I'll put a screenshot in here. We took a bunch of zucchinis in and used them in the What We Eat in a Week video as well. So that was nice. But yeah, so anyway, I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.